Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Heidi Craig, and she's going to tell us about her near-death experience. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, Peggy. Good morning, and or maybe it's afternoon where you're at.
Nope, it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, good morning. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So I'm going to let you start wherever you like and take as long as you like.
Sure, no problem. Well, I think I'll just start from, so not from the beginning, but I'll start from the beginning of how the near-death experience happened. So I had just given birth to my youngest son, and I had retained placenta, which at that time I didn't know what was happening. But I could not deliver the placenta naturally. With the doctor's help, we could not deliver the placenta. So we ended up going to the operating room where they put me under to deliver or extract the placenta. And during that time, my heart stopped for about 4.5 minutes. And that's when I had my near death experience. And I remember being wheeled into the operating room, being put under. And then when I woke up, I was at home. It felt to me like home. So I was just immersed with and immersed with senses that I cannot articulate that here in the 3D plane on Earth, because we don't have the words for it. But I was immersed, so all my senses plus more senses was just washed over with unconditional love, joy, peace, contentment. And I knew everything was okay. I knew I was okay. I knew my babies and my husband at the time, my family, my friends, the world. I knew everything was okay and everything was the way it was supposed to be, and that we were all connected. It was just an instant knowing. And so, and then just this love, this warmth, and I was wrapped in a blanket of light, and that light, that energy, um, is source, is God, is love. And what I felt during that experience, where we come from. So I was home. So to me, it felt like home. And I knew this is where I wanted to be, and everything was going to be fine. No thought that, oh, I just had a baby, and I do have two young babies, at home as well. I have to be there. I have to be there for them. I didn't have that thought at all. I just knew they were okay and they were going to be okay. And I knew I was going to see them soon, like in a blink of an eye. Time there does not exist as time does here. So there's no time. And there's different, I was shown a lot of things during my experience. And it's hard because everything was happening at the same time, but separately, which is really hard for us to wrap our heads around because we're on linear time. And so everything goes in a chronological order. Well, there, it was all happening at the same time, but again, separately. So, and it's a hard concept, and it's a hard concept to understand unless you've experienced it. So I don't have big words. I don't have a big fancy. I am educated, but I don't have a doctorate. I don't have the words to articulate a lot of times what I'm trying to explain during my experience. So I'll use the words that I have, and hopefully it'll resonate with people. And if not, maybe they got something from it. That's why I love to share my story. So I woke up in this beautiful, all-encompassing blanket of light, which was this warmth. Um, the best thing I can describe it was when I used to go back home to my grandparents' house in the winter, and I would go and I would stay over, and I just remember my grandma would tuck me in, and the linens were all crisp and it was warm, the heater was on, the fireplace was going, the snow was falling, and she'd come kiss me on the forehead and tell me she loved me. My grandpa would pop his head in and he'd tell me that he loves me. And then just that feeling of knowing that I was unconditionally loved, that I was safe, that there was no worries in the world, and I could sleep. And that's the best sleep I ever had. And that warmth, that comfort, that's what I was immersed in. That's what I was surrounded in. So I woke up in that, and I had all this love, and I was just like I can breathe, right? Like I'm home, and this is where I'm meant to be. This is where I'm from. I remembered who I was, and my magnificence, and everybody's magnificence. When we're dealing with people, and especially challenging people, we forget that they are brilliant human beings as well. And they have this beautiful, wonderful soul, because when, when we're in this world and we're caught up with our problems, we forget to see people for who they truly are, stripped down at their soul level. And so I knew that everything made sense, even past things that happened to me that were challenging, that were difficult, made sense. So I got a picture of everything. I was shown life reviews, but I didn't have a life review. But I got a picture of how everything is connected, how pieces in the past and every run I've run into, and every object and every animal and everything, how we're all connected, and my actions towards them. So, if I hurt somebody, eventually when I do go home, I will have a life review, and I'm going to have to live how I made them feel. So every feeling and emotion they experience that I helped them experience in that moment, I'm going to feel that. And so we really do, it's not like judgment where there was a panel of beings or God or Jesus or anyone judging me. It was just me reviewing. And even though I did have my review, but I was shown this, when you do have it, when you're reviewing your life, you're not sitting there in judgment, and you're not sitting there harshly. You're sitting there like, oh, okay, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why that made sense. Oh, and now I'm going to have to experience that to see how I made them feel, what I put them through. Because we're really here to learn. We're here to love, and we're here to learn. We're here to grow our souls. So we can ascend our vibration and go to a higher level, because we are energy, we are vibration. So when I was there, when I was at home and I was having this experience, at first, when I recognized the beings around me, they kind of look like Casper the ghost, like with silhouettes. But that was just like a physical thing. That's what they showed me just initially, because everything was instantaneous. When I had a thought, even before I could get like the first letter out of the thought, my question was answered just like that. And telepathically in my head. So it was just instant. It was just instant that I was getting communication, and it was a lot. Again, everything at one time was happening in this experience. When I think about it now and try to articulate it, then it made sense. Everything made sense. Because you can be here and you can be there and you can be experiencing this and you can be doing that, and you can be on a different plane, you can be on, all at the same time, experiencing everything all at once, having these individual experiences. But so I'm there and I'm looking at them, but it was just that initial physical to get me acclimated, and then it was I could see them with their energy vibration, with their soul. So everyone has a vibration. Everyone has a distinct color. So I had a vibration, I had a color that was separate from this being's vibration and this being's color. But all of our vibration, our energies, our colors all came together in this pattern that made up this beautiful, all-encompassing golden white light that we were in, which is source. Or everybody has a different word to describe, a higher being or a higher source, but I just call it source, which to me is God. It's source. And there's no sexuality. It's male, female, it's everything. It's all in there, all of it. So I'm having this experience and I'm being shown all these beautiful things, and I'm being shown like past events. I didn't see any future events. I wasn't shown any future events. And I wasn't given the option. I know a lot of people go through a light. I didn't. I actually just woke up in the light. I know a lot of people are given the option if they want to stay or if they want to come back into their physical bodies. I wasn't given that option. I literally was, the doctor was yelling at me to wake up, and this warmth that I had, which again, it was so beautiful, and this love that I felt and this joy that I felt was gone, and I was cold and I was heavy, and I didn't understand. I'm like, why? I was just home. Why am I back here? So initially I was really angry at the doctor for waking me up. And then later on, when I talked to my guides, like, why wasn't I given the option, the opportunity to stay. Like this was just really, really fresh, because now I know I have more things. I'm not done here. I have things I have to do that I signed up for, that I wanted to learn and experience to grow, to ascend. But they told me, they're like, because you weren't done. You have things that you have to do. You have these 3 beautiful babies that you're there to help and help raise them and help them to grow. So I knew, at that point when they answered me, I knew, and it made sense. But I was back here, and I did have a couple weeks where I was a little depressed. I'm back in this world. I didn't want to be back here. I wanted to be home, which sounds horrible. And then I'm going through these feelings as a new mother. I feel guilty because I have this family that I'm here to take care of. And yeah, I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be back home because I knew what home, I knew where we're from. I know what love was. Because we come here and we forget, we're in this plane. It's heavy. We're clumsy. We're trying to figure it out. There's a lot of information that we're shielded from when we come here, so we forget who we are. And that's why, babies, young kids, animals, you'll see them like looking up and talking to somebody, or looking and barking, or wagging their tails like they're playing with somebody that's not there. It's because they have that connection, that pole to pole connection with where we're from. Whereas adults, as we start growing up, we forget that, and we forget who we are, and we forget where we're from. So my experience for me was beautiful, and it was life changing, but it took a long time to integrate my experience into my life. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't a magic pill. I'm not special. I know there are thousands and thousands of people that have had near-death experiences. They just don't speak about it. More people than what we probably know of out there that have had experiences. And it's not, and if somebody had an experience and they were able to change their life overnight, that's fantastic for them. For me, I'm one of these people that it takes me hard lessons to learn my lesson, right? I have to do something over and over again to learn that lesson. I always seem to take the hard way instead of the easy way. And that's just the way I learn and I process things. So it took me a lot of years to integrate in my experience. Like, why did I have the experience? What am I supposed to do with this information? What am I supposed to do with this? But I can tell you, fundamentally and at my core, it did change me immediately. And so I started taking baby steps. I started making changes that were positive to change my life, to align with my truth, what I know to be real and moral and right for myself based on the experience that I had. So it was a beautiful experience. And I just covered a part of it, but if you have any questions, I love to talk about it. I love to answer any questions.
Yeah, you said that you saw a lot of beautiful things. What did you see exactly?
So again, it wasn't really with the physical eyes. It was feeling it with my entire being. And so it was that love. It was that joy, that contentment, the colors. We don't have colors here to describe the colors there. The colors, the sounds, the smell, everything was heightened and accelerated and beautiful, beyond what I have here in this world to explain it.
What did you see of colors? Beings or just colors moving, or?
Yeah, correct. So again, the way I recognized Jesus when I was introduced to him, the way that I recognized family members that had, that were already home, the way I recognized animals, like my fur babies, was I knew who they were, but it wasn't like with the physical eye. It was by their vibration, by their energy, which was a color, and a level. It's hard to articulate. I'm sorry, Peggy. Like, it's hard.
Okay. So what was the music like that you heard?
The music was just in the background, but like a sweet, it was like a combination of like the wind rustling in the breeze, and then also like harmonics, like angels singing, all wrapped together. It was just like the whole time I could just hear this beautiful music, and the whole time I was given these messages over and over again. that we're unconditionally loved, that everything will always be okay, everything will always be all right, and everything's always the way it's supposed to be. So those messages were washing through me as I'm hearing this beautiful music. I'm seeing all these beautiful beings, and I'm getting all this information, which again was happening all at the same time.
Okay, the messages you got, was it just like knowings, like, oh, okay, okay, okay? Or was there any telepathic or verbal, I mean, auditory voice?
Well, it was in my head. So it was just a knowing. I can't say
Okay,
that I actually heard. It was just a knowing of this just going through me. Like, you are unconditionally loved. Everything will always be okay. Everything's always the way it's supposed to be. So it was this a combination. I'll say it was a combination of things. It was a combination of, I guess, in my head, but at the same time, it just knowing, and it going through my entire being, my entire essence.
okay. How did you process this when you come back? Did you tell anybody right away?
I tried. I told my ex-husband, who told me that I was crazy, that it had to have been a dream, and that I was crazy. So I after going through that experience, and after having a difficult, delivery, um, and having these 3 babies and recovering, I just felt in that moment, if I told my ex-husband and he was telling me that I'm crazy, that nobody else would believe me. And the doctors did not tell me that my heart stopped. A hospital official came in the next day, and with all these papers and in a suit and a tie, and asked me if I remembered anything. And I looked over at my ex-husband, who kind of just looked at me and shook his head. So I felt like I couldn't say anything. So I just told him no. And then he's like, okay, sign these papers. And I didn't even read the papers. I just went through and I signed. It was, I believe, 6 years later, after I had been laid off for the 3rd time, and I was going through some challenges, financial challenges, emotional challenges. And I was in a really dark place where I, I, I heard the message in my head. Again, those 3 messages: everything's going to be okay. You're unconditionally loved. Everything's always as it's supposed to be. And so I knew in that moment, okay, I need to pull myself together, and just take steps, because it's going to be okay. No matter what, it's always going to be, okay. So yeah, I'm sorry. I lost where I was going
Okay,
with that.
so was it in the documents? You saw medical
Oh,
documents?
yes. Thank you so much for bringing that back around, Peggy. Yes. So wanted to, I received that message, and then I also received, you need to get your medical documents. You need to get a copy of your medical documents, and you need to write a book. And so I kept receiving these messages. So I reached out to the hospital. I got a copy of my medical transcripts, and I read through them, and I saw in there where my heart had stopped, and they put the reason was due to heart disease, because I have what's called MVP, mitral valve prolapse. So that's what they cited in the report, was the reason as to why. But when I talked to my guides, and when I was shown, when I was in my experience, it was I had a reaction to the anesthesia, and that's what made my heart stop. So
Makes
there were
sense.
differences in the medical report to what I actually knew happened, which I can't prove because it's just my experience that I had.
Uh-huh.
But the medical report cites complications due to heart disease. So I got that, and it made sense. I'm like, wow. I said, in my head, so that makes sense, because before they weren't giving me any information. They asked me, if I remembered anything, which did not happen in my other 2 deliveries. It was just a different set of events. So that's when I found out that my heart had stopped, and then the reason that they cited why.
Did they follow up on your heart? And I mean, are you getting care now for that, or?
No, it's so mitral valve prolapse. I think that there was more research being done. When I was diagnosed, I was a teenager. And it was basically, you have to take antibiotics anytime you have surgery, otherwise bacteria could go
It's a
back
heart
in your
murmur.
cells. It's when your left atrium, your leaflet reopens, and the blood can go back through.
Okay.
And so if you're having surgery and a bacteria gets in there, it could go back through and cause a reaction, like an infection.
Okay.
So it's like you have to take antibiotics before you get your teeth cleaned, before you have any surgeries, anything like that. Well, they've done more research over the years, and now they're like, no, you don't need to do that anymore. So I think they just monitor it and make sure. I mean, there's, you might get, like, if I stand up too easy, get a little dizzy,
Uh-huh.
or might have shortness of breath, but it's nothing serious. That's why it was kind of strange that's what they cited in the medical report.
That's what they told me too. I always, since I was little, said I had a heart murmur. And then when I have dental work and stuff, when I get older, they would say that you have to have the antibiotic before any dental procedure. Because it like goes down and settles in your heart because your heart's not pumping it right or something. And then years later, so I always start telling doctors that I got a heart murmur. And then I went in for a gallbladder surgery and they said, you don't have a heart murmur. Like, okay. I
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
in my
they
50s.
changed.
Like,
Yeah, like
okay.
they changed the guidelines. They changed the guidelines, and I guess they
I'd heard
did
that
more
too, that they
research.
changed that you don't have to do that anymore, but
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But you're like, I was told this my whole life. Where's my antibiotics? Yeah, yeah. It happened to me too. I'm like, what? Because again, from I was a teenager, I was used to, going in, having my teeth cleaned, taking my antibiotics beforehand, and one time they're like, nope, you don't have to. Regulations have changed and the stance has changed. So I'm like, okay. And here I am. I'm fine. So
Yeah, so I didn't believe them when they said I didn't have it. And so I would continue telling the dentist, oh no, we don't do that anymore. So like, okay, I don't have it and we don't have to do it anymore anyway, so
yeah, yeah.
covered.
So yeah, so they just called yours a heart murmur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We're good. We're here, so it's all good.
So, did you write your book?
I did. It's just a little affirmation book. I've been writing my big book, which is going to be like 400, 500 pages, for a while now, for like 10 years. It's just, I'll get not writer's block, but, I'll start writing it, and I'm looking back on things that have happened in the past. And some things can be difficult, no matter how much work I've done. And even though I've had this experience, I still am a human being here, with these emotions. And I do get drawn back in to life, and get staticky. And I do get depressed, and I do get sad, and I do get angry, and I do, you know, all the emotions that every human being experiences with life. I have financial hardships, and I do get frustrated with coworkers, and I do just all the things that you go through
Yeah.
in life. So I'll start writing the book, and I'll hit a point where I'm going over something that's challenging, and I have to stop, and I'm like, okay, that's something that I have to heal from still, that I still need to work on. So it's a process, but
So it's
one day
not
I will get
venting,
there.
journaling.
Yeah, I'll get there. I'll get it done and published one day. It'll happen.
Now, what's this AC holistic healing? What is that?
ACE, holistic healing. So after I had my experience, about 3 years after, 4 years after my experience, I immediately started getting into holistic modalities and studying. I don't like to call it a cult because it sounds negative, but started studying about angels, and about meditation, and about Reiki, and about crystals, and paranormal. I've always been drawn to paranormal and supernatural, even before I had the experience and when I was young. So I started getting into all that because I just felt really drawn to it. And plus, I knew that it would help me on my path of healing, healing past trauma and other things in my life. So I got into studying all that, and I found that I had some abilities. I always had it. I just didn't put a label or a name on it, and didn't realize it was anything different than anybody else. So I was able to, at that time, like put a name onto what this was, what I was doing, or what this was, and that, oh, other people do, but it's not normal for everybody, type of a thing. And so I had a little hobby business where I would help people with energy healing. And so that's what ACE Holistic Healing was. I no longer do that. I still get people that reach out to me asking me if I do healings and if I do readings. And at this point, I no longer do that. I do still have the Facebook page, which I'll post on sometimes. I've actually been getting messages and thinking about starting to um, post a daily message from my guides that I receive again. But you know, I know the steps I should be taking or that I can take. But life gets in there and things come up. And so I just really haven't been dedicated to it the way that I want to at this point. But again, that's something that I will get back into eventually.
What was that like, the energy healing? Is that like placing hands on people, or what is that?
I mean, you can do it in person or you can do it remotely. It's literally just calling in the energy. I have this ability that I can see energy. So I can call in like healing energy from source, which to me is white. It looks white. I can call in healing energy from Archangel Raphael, which is green, like a green healing energy. Metatron, which is like a purple healing energy. So I can see energy. I can meditate. I can surround myself, protect myself and the person I'm working with, and then I can call in the energy, and then I'll call it and I'll see it coming in. But the color that it turns and where it goes, that's not on me. That's on the archangels. That's on the healing masters. That's on source, on where that person needs that energy to go and what color it's going to be. But I get the benefit because as I am in this meditative state and I'm calling in the energy and I'm asking that it go where it needs to go for this person, mind, body, spirit, emotion, it's actually coming through me as well. And so it's going to every spot. I can feel it where it's going on that person. And I can feel it working, and it works very quickly. It doesn't take hours. It's really quick that it will go in and work itself through, in my experience.
Now, what's it like when you get messages from your guides?
So when I'm working with somebody and I'm doing the energy healings, I will get messages. I get messages that they want to get through to that person, that person needs to hear, even though it doesn't make any sense to me. And so at that time, I'll either tell them the messages I'm receiving, or I'll wait till I'm done with the healing, and then I'll tell them the messages that I received. And most of the time they validate them. Sometimes they don't validate them. Like, they can validate them in that moment, it'll resonate with them. Sometimes it doesn't. I just have to trust the information that I'm receiving and hoping later on it'll resonate with them. And if it doesn't, that's fine as well. I know that my beliefs and the experience that I have does not resonate with everyone. You know, and that's perfectly fine. As so, how did I integrate my NDE? Again, it took years. It's taken me years to integrate it into my life. Just learning the lessons and understanding that I am worthy, that I'm here to take up space, that I'm not here to be small, that my voice matters, my opinion matters, I matter. So up until my near-death experience, because of trauma that had happened when I was a child, I was a people pleaser. Um, I I really didn't know who I was as a human being, as a person. Even after I was married and having kids, I was really basically a doormat, because I didn't know who I was. So how could I have an opinion? How I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I didn't like. I kind of was like a leaf blowing in the gutter, kind of just lost, just floating by. And so after my near death experience, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, why did I have this experience, and what do these messages mean? What am I supposed to do with this information? And being in a relationship at that time that wasn't healthy, I started realizing, okay, I am worthy, and I deserve love, and I deserve respect, and I deserve to be treated like everyone else. There's no reason or point for me to be small, to keep myself small. And if I start, which was really difficult for me, and I still have to work on that one. I don't like conflict. And so I used to do anything to avoid conflict, even at the expense of really how I felt and what I wanted and what it was doing to me. I would, just to make everybody else happy, just like a yes man. And again, like doormat, a people pleaser. And so when I started setting boundaries, I guess is the correct term, I started setting boundaries, um, what I would tolerate, what I wouldn't tolerate. And then I started learning about me, like what I love, what I like, what's important to me, what my beliefs are. Um, people, some people that took advantage of my kindness, um, started walking away from my life, started being removed from my life, which looking back now, I wish I would have done that well before I started to, but these were the lessons that I needed to learn. This is what I wanted to learn when I signed up to come into this life. And so I started making those positive steps. I started setting boundaries. So I lost a lot of people that at that time to me were important. I look back now, they were just there to teach a lesson, and I'm thankful for them and I wish them well, but they're not at this point, they're not supposed to be in my life. And so for me, it's I'm proud of myself for the work that I've done and how far I've come. And I do now know that when I set a boundary, like if I meet somebody for the first time and I set a boundary and I tell them, you know, this is okay, this isn't okay, and if they don't respect that, then I need to move on from them, and that's a lesson for them as well. So we're all intertwined. We're all here to teach each other lessons. Every human being we run into, even if it's a casual passing, even if it's, you know, you're angry at somebody on the interstate and you give them the finger, or you look at somebody and you smile, the way that the ripple effect that it affects them and the person behind you and this person over here and this and that, it's real. We all affect each other. We're all affected by each other. So it's so important, and especially now, that we start listening to one another and we start caring about each other. Like we have all this technology, but we're more detached than ever because of the technology. And I think we kind of lose that aspect that we are human beings, all just trying our best. And at our core, all we really want is to be truly loved and accepted for who we are. So it's taken me years and years to integrate it in. As far as support, I never got support up until about 6-7 years ago. I was scared to talk about it. I was really scared to talk about it, maybe even 10 years ago now, because of the reaction that I would get. It really wasn't, and in the medical community, it was more, again, like a negative, like an occult negative connotation to a near-death experience, and talking about these beliefs and talking about it in a way outside of a religious connection and context. A lot of people, you know, challenged my experience, challenged my beliefs. I'm not here to fight for what I believe. I'm just here to share my story. And if it
Right.
resonates, that's great. If it doesn't, that's great as
Right.
well. You can go on with your life.
Right.
So I really never had support. And then I was taking a class on psychic abilities, and I met a woman. And this was when I was in Santa Barbara. And we started talking, and I had seen her in a couple of other classes and a couple of other groups. We seemed to be kind of like paralleling each other and like interested in the same thing. So we started talking. And she's like, yeah, I am an organizer of INS and Santa Barbara, which is the International Institute of Near-Death Studies and Research. And she's like, I would love for you to come and speak and talk about your experience. And I was always up to that point really scared of public speaking. Like I remember in high school when
Was
I was in
that
public
Barbara
speaking.
Bartholomew?
Yes, yes,
I
you know
love
Barbara.
her. I've had
Yes,
her as a
yes,
guest too.
so do I. Yes.
She's
Yeah, and
awesome.
her experiences are incredible. Yes, and yes. And so I spoke, and I was, this calm came over me, because like in high school when I was in speaking classes, I would get up there and I would shake and I would turn red and my eye would twitch, and you know, I felt like I was gonna die. I was having a panic attack, and so I hated speaking. I hated public speaking. But when she asked me, I immediately felt that peace and contentment. I'm like, yes, I can do it. And I literally went home and I wrote out what I wanted to say, and I got up there and I spoke, and the reaction, everybody was so loving and so happy for me to be there and share my experience. It was a great platform to introduce me into talking about my experience and sharing those messages that I received. I knew it was the right vehicle at the right time that my guides wanted me to do. to get those messages out there. I've since heard, I don't really like to watch other people's near-death experiences because I don't want it to play into my own experience. I don't want to pick up something and integrate it into my experience, and my experience.
I'm not that way.
And my experience not to be true or authentic. So I really don't like to read or watch about other people's near-death experiences. But I have had people come up to me and tell me that there have been other experiencers that have had those same messages and that have relayed those same messages that I had, which I think is really fascinating, because I know you've been doing this and you've had your own experience, and you're interviewing people all the time, and the experiences are so different, because it's based on our beliefs and our perceptions in this 3D body, this world that we're in, until we, through that lens, until we're actually immersed and we're at home and we realize, oh, okay, and we all are connected, and we all are from love, and we all are, so I didn't have that support until I met Barbara, and until I had that IANS platform. And then I was going and I was speaking at I did like a speaking tour down south in Southern California. And then COVID came along. So I did a lot of podcasts and shows online. I did a documentary. So having that platform to talk about it and feeling like, okay, I'm doing my part. I had this experience. I had it for a reason. I'm supposed to share my experience and put those messages out there to the world, get those out there, and on a different level. You notice everybody's so different. Our backgrounds, our careers, our education, that are having these experiences. So I may not have the big words, but I might have words for somebody that doesn't have the big words that resonate with how I'm talking about the experience. So I knew at that point, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be out there, and I don't have to worry about how I'm speaking or the words that I'm saying. I can explain, I had this experience, but it's really hard to articulate because I don't have the words. There's no words for me to use. We just don't have those colors here. We don't have those sounds. We don't have those smells. But thanks to Barbara and thanks to IANS, I had this platform, and that's what started with me, talking about and sharing the experience, and then people as yourself reaching out and saying, hey, do you want to come on and share your experience? And every time I have an opportunity, I'm like, yes, I would love to come on and talk about it. And then also that's when I wrote my little affirmation book. And I woke up one morning, my guides are like, you have to write this book, you have to write this book, you have to get it out there. And I'm like, I don't know how to write a book. And they're like, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, and I don't, like, how long does it have to be? They're like, it doesn't matter. It could be 5 pages. As long as you put your heart into it, you write truthfully, honestly, and with love, it'll get out to whom it needs to get out to. And it'll resonate, and those messages will get to who they need to get to. So that's where my support came in. But that was years after my experience, and also years of integrating it in and healing and understanding fully, not even fully, I still don't think I fully understand it, but understanding the experience and what I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
I think for me, I just want to reiterate those messages, right? That we are unconditionally loved. Everything's always going to be okay, and everything's always as it's supposed to be. I truly believe in those messages that I received. And I truly believe, and I know we talked about this earlier, Peggy, that if we ourselves practice kindness to ourselves and how we speak to ourselves internally, when we get up and look in that mirror, instead of, oh, those wrinkles, it's like, you know what, you are beautiful. And I'm grateful for this body, and it's let me have these beautiful, amazing kids, and I can walk and get to where I need to go, and I'm strong. If we can change those negative into positive and be kinder to ourselves, and then practice that to be kind to others, we can truly heal the world with kindness and with love.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you. I love your name, by the way, Heidi. I've always loved that name.
Thank you. And I love Peggy, and I love the way you spell it.
Oh, I hate my name. I've always, I started spelling it like that when I was 14. And I'll tell you why. My sister, her name's Norma, and she hated her name. So she always went by Terry since she was little. Norma, because her middle name's Teresa. So she's always Terry. She's tomboy. And she started spelling her name T-E-R-I instead of T-E-R-R-Y. And I did everything she did. I copied her. And so when
Oh,
she started spelling TRI, I thought, well, I can spell Peggy Pegi. And I've had so many teachers and everybody say that's not proper. It's like, I'm doing it. It's my name and I'm
yeah,
doing it.
yeah, it's my name and it's what I love and it doesn't hurt anyone. So my name is Peggy, Pegi. Thank you.
And
Love it.
somebody messaged me recently and they said, you need to change the spelling of your name because it makes you look immature. I am immature. So good.
You know, I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm
I feel like
62. I'm
you're in
immature.
a position, Peggy, where because you deal in a public platform and you have guests on and guests that are going to be controversial to others, that you're going to have these people that are going to get on and hide behind the keyboard and that are going to put out that negativity and put out that hate. And I really appreciate how strong you are, that you continue to have this platform, you continue to share these stories. And I know it gets to you, but the way that you handle it, I think you're doing an amazing job. And just thank you for this opportunity and thank you for your show. You're amazing. And I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you and I appreciate being on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. And my internet has went out 3 times while we've done this today. We've got opportunity to sit and chat in between. So it's been great.
It's been fun. I really enjoyed myself and I hope we get to do
Yeah.
it again. And I'd love to, if your viewers, if anyone you know personally, if anyone has questions, I'd be more than happy to do a follow-up show and answer any questions. And again, I love to share my experience. I love talking with you and with everyone else. So just let me know.
I need to learn how to do that, to do the where people come on and ask questions to guests. That would
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah, or at least like get their written questions and then we could do it that way. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So thank you, Peggy.
Thank you, Heidi. Bye.